A very, very good evening to all of you, friends. A very, very good evening to all of you. Welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep, the most comprehensive preparation app for all exams. A very, very good evening to all of you. So, friends, today we begin with another very important session insofar as your class 11 legal studies syllabus is concerned. In this session, I'm going to specifically talk about child rights. Now, every child which is born has certain rights: right to shelter, right to health, right to education. There have been a number of series of rights that are provided to every child who is born. Now, when a child is born, we must also understand some parents might be rich, some parents might be poor. So, keeping in mind India's socio-economic and cultural diversity, certain rights have been provided to every children in this country. And in this session, I am going to specifically deal with them insofar as your class 11th legal studies chapter is concerned. But before moving ahead, BYJU'S Exam Prep brings to you unlock your 3-day free trial access to all our courses. Go to the description box below and you will find a link. Click on the link and you can experience 3-day free trial access to all our courses. So hurry up. You don't have to pay a single penny for that. Now let's move into the agenda for today's session. The agenda for today's session is number one is child rights. What is child rights? The definition. What are the rights of children? Then we have specific rights like right to education, right to health, right to shelter, child labor, which has been a very important issue in the number of decades that there has been instances where child labor is being practiced. What laws have been made by the parliament to stop this abuse of child labor? Then I'm also going to talk to you about sexual abuse towards children, okay, especially the POCSO laws. And then the juvenile justice. Now, if a child is in conflict with law, cannot be termed as a criminal because it's a child. Now, what are the laws relating to that? And finally, we shall end today's session with some multiple choice questions. So guys, let's get started. Now, we must first and foremost understand that every child is not born to a rich parent. Now, there are millions and millions of children who are born to not so rich parents. Now, rich parents will have their child all facilities. They will buy them everything possible on earth. Now, what about those parents who are not so affluent? I'm talking about the poor and the middle class, not even the middle class, but the poor people. Now, one thing that we must keep in our mind, that who is a child? Who exactly is a child? Now, under the International Convention on the Rights of the Child, which was of the year 1989, it says that any human being below the age of 18 years is a child. Number one. So under the international law, that is the Convention on the Rights of the Child, any person, any human being below the age of 18 is a child. Now let's come to India. Now under the Majority Act, the Indian Majority Act of 1875, any person below the age of 18 is a minor. So in India, the 1875 law simply says that any person below the age of 18 is a minor. And once a person reaches the age of 18, he becomes a major. So there is no such definition of child in India. But the international law says, international convention says, below 18 is a child. Indian law says minor and major. Once a person touches the age of 18, he is a major. Now, India happens to be a welfare state. Since India happens to be a welfare state, it is the duty of the state, it is the duty of the government of the day to provide access to each and every child insofar as health, security, and food, education, everything is concerned. Now, just because a child, now, during the COVID-19, we have seen a number of people dying, right? Now, there might be a huge amount of population who have become orphans, right? Orphans. Now, it is the duty of the state to provide every facility to those children. Now, suppose a child is born in a poor beggar's family. Is it not the duty of the state to provide all basic amenities? Right to shelter, right to food, right to health, right to education? Yes, it is. Because we, in India, the Constitution says that India strives to be a welfare state. Now, if the state do not provide all these things to the children, then can India be called a welfare state? The answer is no. Now, keeping these in mind, we have a number of legislation, including constitutional amendments that have been brought to make child a part of our society, protect the child from every possible type of abuse, and make sure that a child grows in this country irrespective whether their parents are poor or rich. Now, the old or the traditional view of a welfare state is based on daya, dan, dakshina, bhiksha, ahimsa, and tyag. Daya means, a kind of dayaness in you. Dan means, you donate certain things. Dakshina is also a kind of donation. Bhiksha means you are begging. Ahimsa, I'm not going to fight, the Gandhian philosophy. And tyag means, you leave everything for, those sadhus and all. So, the traditional view of welfare state is based on this. But today, the view about a welfare state cannot be based purely on daya, dan, dakshina, bhiksha, ahimsa or tyag. It has to be based on certain rights. Rights of every children who are in this particular country. Children are the future of tomorrow. Now, if we do not produce great minds among today's children, who is going to rule tomorrow? Now, the old generation is going to fade off. Right? So, the country needs to develop the children so that they become the future of tomorrow. Tomorrow, we want scientists, we want IT guys, we want good teachers, we want everything. Now, how do we get that? Today's children will become tomorrow's future. Is that clear? Now, the right approach it's insofar as this welfare system, which is predominantly mentioned in our constitution, is concerned, is social justice. Now, how do you achieve social justice? How do you achieve a state where there is no discrimination, where there is equality, where there is equity and empowerment given to every children? Now, based on this particular idea of providing social justice, a state where there is no discrimination, a state where we empower not only the woman but also the children. Now, of course, I'm sure that you must have heard that the Women's Reservation Bill has been passed. It's a fantastic bill to provide empowerment. Now, similar empowerment is also required insofar as children are concerned. And this perspective is given under the Rights of Children Convention, that is United Nations Convention of Right of Child, in the year 1989. Now, this 1989 convention, United Nations Convention, speaks about rights of child. Every child on earth. Now, India is a member of the United Nations. And finally, since it's a convention, India ratified this particular convention in 1992, and thereafter a series of development had taken place in Indian context. Is that clear? Every one of you? Is that clear to each and every one of you? So guys, if you are liking this session, do press the like button, okay? So we are today talking about child rights, the importance of child right, because childs are the future of India tomorrow. Is that clear? Now, what are those rights? When we talk about civil, economic, social, cultural and political rights, what are those rights? Now, when we talk about civil rights given to children, we talk about protection from torture or ill treatment or maltreatment. Now, when you go, the other day, if you are going to a market, you see children, absolutely 7-year-old, 8-year-old children sitting on the streets and trying to sell something. Now, we need to protect these people because these people are the future of India tomorrow. We need to protect them from torture. We have seen a number of cases of torture against children. We need to protect these children from every possible way of torture against them. We need protection from exploitation. We have to bring in a perspective where we are talking about development of children, protecting these children from any possible way of exploitation. Now, if you go to the cities, you will see in the red lights, in the crossings of red lights, there are men or women sitting with begging bowls along with their children. Now, that's a kind of exploitation. They need to go to schools and not sit with their parents to beg. So we have to think in a much different perspective. We need to protect their health. We need to protect them from sexual exploitation. Now, these are certain very, very important things that are required insofar as providing a child with civil, economic, social and cultural rights. Is that clear? So we need to protect them from being tortured, from being ill-treated. We need to protect them from being exploited. We need to protect their health. We need to protect them from sexual exploitation. We need to provide them with education. Now let's talk about education. Now, by virtue of the 86th Constitutional Amendment, 1986, the Constitution was amended and an important fundamental right was inserted under Part 3 of the Indian Constitution. Now, Part 3 of the Indian Constitution, all of you know, provides fundamental rights to citizens. Article 21A was inserted in the fundamental rights section, which provides right to education. What did it say? It said that the state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children between the age of 6 and 14 years. So now see, there was no right to education in the original constitution. But by virtue of the 86th Constitutional Amendment, a particular fundamental right was inserted in the Indian Constitution, which said that the state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children between two particular age, 6 to 14. Now, why is it done? The rich, the affluent, the wealthy can send their children to all the big schools on earth. Okay, there are fantastic schools in India. Okay. But let's consider the poor. Now, can a poor man who begs in the street send their children to school? No. The answer is simple no. And for this reason alone, for this particular reason alone, we have this article, that is Article 21A, which provides that every children within this age group of 6 and 14 shall be provided free and compulsory education by the state. Now, this will help every children to achieve education, to become a learned man, educated man, take decisions of their own, help the weaker section of the society. Now, the rich section of the society is definitely they send their children to schools. But how many of us are so lucky to have parents who can afford their children's education? Now, apart from this article, that is 21A, that was inserted by virtue of the 86th Constitutional Amendment, another very important significance of this 86th Constitutional Amendment is the fact that it inserted a fundamental duty under 51A of the Indian Constitution and said that it is the duty of every father, every mother, every parent, every guardian to send their children to school. So there is a right and there is a duty that was inserted by virtue of this 86th Constitutional Amendment, which provides all these things. Now, let's come to the right to education and free, right of children to free and compulsory education Act of 2009. What does it provide? It provides children to get education irrespective of their economic condition, whether rich or poor. Everyone has a right to get free and compulsory education. Free and compulsory education between that age limit of 6 and 14 years. And the cost of education. The cost of education for providing education to children will be shared by the state and the central government. Now, and 25% of seats in schools will be provided for the economically disadvantaged community. Now, that's very, very important. 25% reservation in all schools for, this is all primary education. We are not talking about CLAT exam. The state is not sponsoring a person to get into NLS Bangalore. That's not there. Now, because the age group is 6 and 14 years, we are only talking about primary education. I'm not talking about a PhD or an MPhil. I'm just talking about basic primary education. And that is what this particular law deals with. Now, apart from education, right of health. Now, right to health. Now, a child should be mentally, physically fit. Now, that's one of the major concerns. Now, in India, we have a lot of malnutrition. Huge amount of children die because of malnutrition. Now, to provide physical and mental strength to children, it is absolutely important that the health of children is taken care. Now, there are a number of diseases. Children should be provided with those vaccines, young age, right? Polio vaccine, this vaccine, that vaccine. Now, please try to understand that it is the duty of the state, and that's what the state does. Once in a blue moon, you'll see the state. Not in a once in a blue moon. I'm sorry. Very frequently, you see that there is a polio booth near a particular society where every child between the age of X and Y should come. There is a WhatsApp group. They say that, okay, please come. There will be this. So that is what the state does. It is the fundamental right of every child to get health, to be healthy, not only mentally but also physically. Because mental and physical health is the backbone of a social well-being. Now, if a person, in our country, in India specifically, there are so many diseases which affects children. To protect, to beat that problem, certain medical benefit, might be psychological or otherwise, must be provided to children. Now, what is the contribution of the Supreme Court? Now, very important. There are two judgments that I should refer to. In Consumer Education and Research Center versus Union of India, 1995 judgment, the Supreme Court said that right to health and medical care is a fundamental right under Article 21. So the Supreme Court in 1995 said that right to health is a part of Article 21. Number one. Secondly, it comes in 1996, Paschim Banga Khet Mazdoor Samiti versus State of West Bengal, wherein the Supreme Court again says that Article 21 imposes an obligation on the part of the state, to provide a healthy life, to every citizen. So these two important judgments, the 1995 judgment and the 1996 judgment, acknowledges this particular aspect, that it is the right of every citizen to have good health. Right to health is guaranteed under Article 21 of the Constitution. And it is the duty of the state to provide every safeguard insofar as right to health is concerned to every citizen, human life. Now, in case there is a death, compensation is given to the victim. Why? In case of death, now, so many people died during COVID-19. And the government came up with this particular policy. If there is a death, we are going to give you 50,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees, 25,000 rupees ex gratia. That means the fact that the state has failed to provide a person security insofar as his health is concerned, the state is giving some compensation to his family. Of course, there can be a particular debate on whether there is adequate compensation or inadequate compensation. That's a separate issue. But that means there is a violation of a person's right. Now, the World Health Organization is the agency which deals with public health. Okay, the World Health Organization, WHO. Now, let's understand that the constitutional duty of the state is to ensure that every person has a healthy life. Every children is provided with every facility to develop in a healthy manner. Okay? Every children must be protected against exploitation. There should not be any kind of exploitation against children. We must also provide not only the children with certain benefits, but also the mother in whose womb the child is. That means maternity benefit. So there is a Maternity Benefit Act, right? Certain leaves are provided, right? So in the government of India, the Parliament of India has made a number of laws for the development of the children, not only the children, but also the mother who bears that children. Now, there must be certain amount of prohibition of consumption of intoxicating drinks and drugs. Now, a person below the age of 18 cannot smoke, and insofar as the drinking age is concerned, or the liquor consumption age is concerned, it varies from state to state. So in Delhi, it might be 25 years or 21 years. In Goa, it is around 18 years. In other states, it varies, okay? Intoxicating drinking age is different, it varies from state to state. Whereas for cigarettes, it is 18 years. Now, it is also the duty of the state to provide pollution-free environment. Now, the pollution, in Delhi especially, during the winters, the AQI, air quality index, becomes like 500, 300, 350. That is dangerous. Now, at our age, we feel it difficult to breathe. Now, understand what is happening to the people who are living in the streets. Now, it is the duty of the state to make sure that we live in a non-polluted environment. If we are living in a polluted environment, it is a violation of our rights. It is a violation of our fundamental rights under Article 21. Now, apart from that, right to shelter. Now, there are, in the winters, we see, people sleeping in the streets. Now, right to life does not mean just existence. Right to life means right to live like a human being. Both these two judgments, Chameli Singh and Shantar Builder's case, enhance this particular theory that, we want to live in a society. We have a right to shelter. And if we do not have a shelter, it is the duty of the state to provide shelter to every citizen of the country. And that's why you have shelter homes. In the winter, I'll give you this example because I stay in Delhi. In Delhi, the government comes up with shelter homes. You will find one in front of AIIMS. You will find a number of them, especially in and around South Delhi. A number of shelter homes. That means during winters, and Delhi winters is very harsh winter. I'm not talking about Ladakh winter, of course not. But yes, Delhi winters is also, the temperature drops quite a bit in Delhi. And so it is the duty of the state to provide shelter to every citizen, because right to life does not mean right to live like an animal. No. We are human beings. We must live like a human being. Child labor. And child labor is a big concept. Now, child across the ages have been put to labor. Now, once a child is put to labor, that means is asked to do certain work, what does it impact? His education. It jeopardizes his mental, physical, and moral well-being if the child is put into hazardous work. Now, we in India have to understand this particular balance. Insofar as, there might be a poor father, a poor child. Now, a child helping the father in a tea stall, it's not a child labor. Now, what is child labor? The The prohibition is insofar as hazardous work is concerned. Glass factory, mines. Now, in a glass factory, there's a danger that a child might be put to physical trauma. In a mine, mineral factory, or an industry, there is physical hardship involved, and child should not be put over there. So child labor is one of the very important aspects that has to be looked at, because how many hours of work, the condition of work is concerned in India. Now the International Labour Organization, now these are very short classes that we are having. We will have a major amount of sessions later to explain everything. Now let's talk about the International Labour Organization, or the ILO. The ILO was founded in 1919. 1919, this particular organization that was founded aimed as a place, as an organization which specializes to deal with labor issues. Now labor issues, it deals with labor issues relating to old people as well as children. There is this particular law, that is the International Program on the Elimination of Child Labor of 1992. That means the International Labour Organization very categorically states that there should not be any form of child labor in this world. But how far have we been successful at it? It's a matter of debate and a concern for all. Now, let's talk about the other measures. Now, number one, these are certain pointers that you must keep in your mind, that there is right against exploitation as a fundamental right. So, children are protected from exploitation. A child below the age of 14 cannot be employed in those hazardous employment. Now there is this Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act of 1986, which bans children below the age of 14 from any hazardous employment, specified occupation and processes. Now certain things, a 12-year-old child can help his or her father in a chai stall or in a tea stall. That's all right. But you cannot ask a child below the age of 14 to work in a glass factory. No, that's not there. Now, there is a national policy on child labor of the year 1987, which provides enforcement of this child labor laws. That means the country has come up with this particular policy where child labor laws has to be strictly enforced at every level. In 2006, the child domestic workers up to 14 years of age came under child labor. So, a child below the age of 14 cannot be used as domestic workers. So, below 14 years, they cannot be used as a child worker, domestic help, saaf karna, those kind of work that they do at home. Every person in our society require certain kind of help. So we have a person who would come and sweep our floors. Now that age is below 14, it is illegal. It is illegal below 14. So mind you, keep that in your mind. And then the parliament also in the year 2012 came up with the POCSO Act, that is the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. Now, children have always been subjected to various types of sexual offenses, both boys and girls. And to protect these children from any kind of sexual abuses, there is this POCSO Act, very strict act, and the punishment is really, really severe. Okay, do keep this in your mind. Now this is one of the aspects that insofar as sexual abuse is concerned. The other aspect is that, we need to be, there must be a social awareness that, children are the gods. They are gods. They are Bhagwan hai. Now, children should not be, discriminated. Children should not be, put to any kind of trauma, any kind of bad things on earth. Because, a child does not become bad. A person does not become bad. A child becomes bad because of the nature or the surroundings where he or she survives. Another very important aspect is the fact that in schools and colleges, their children should be taught about sex education. It is important. Because, in India, we see, so many rapes, so many sexual offenses taking place. Now, I personally consider the crime of rape as a mental disease. Now, I'll give you certain examples. In our legal judgments, we have seen, people raping a 2-year-old girl, a 5-year-old girl, a 7-year-old girl. I think that man is mad, has some problem over here. Simple. So, please keep this in your mind that yes, a person who is sexually abusing a minor, a child, this is what I refer to as the sickness in our mind. Right? There is some problem with that person, and that man must be, given proper, mental help. He must be treated in a mental hospital rather than in jail. Because that man is sick. And another very important aspect is parental competencies programs. Now, parents must also be taught, must also be provided with all these important things, like, how to deal with children when they are attaining the age of maturity, how to deal with them. Those things have to be well thought of, and certain programs have to be made in that regard. And now about the juvenile justice. A child is born innocent. The environmental factor that have strength, criminal tendency in the child should be held responsible. देखिए, no child becomes a criminal tomorrow. It depends on the surroundings where he or she is brought up. The removal of these factors might turn the juvenile into a person of stature. And that's why we require the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Act of 2015, which provides a legal framework for juvenile justice in India. Now, suppose a child has committed a wrong. I don't call it a crime. I call it conflict with law. Children who are in conflict with law. Now, they cannot be sent to jails. Now, see the condition of Indian jails. A person who is a thief goes to a jail and becomes a dacoit when he comes out. Now, that's the condition of Indian jails today, unfortunately. There is no reformation. You degrade. There is a deterioration in the jails. And that is not perhaps one of the reasons why jails were made. Jails were made to reform a human being. We believe in the reformative form of justice. Not for, something like an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. No, we don't believe that in India. So we believe in reformation. But what is actually happening in the jails? We cannot send a child to a jail. It will be suicidal for the society. And hence we have these correctional places, juvenile justice care homes, where a child will be given education, suppose a child has committed a murder or something, or some other acts. Now, he should be reformed. You cannot send him to jail. He will turn out to be a monster in jail. You cannot do that. And keeping in mind this, the 2015 Act plays a very important role. Now, children in need of care and protection and children in conflict with law are brought within the ambit of this Juvenile Protection Act. There are various types of crimes that a child commits: petty offenses, serious offenses, and heinous offenses. And because a child above the age of 16, between 16 and 18, if he has committed a heinous crime, can be treated as an adult because the law has been changed after the Nirbhaya judgment. After pre-Nirbhaya, below 18, nothing was a crime. But post-Nirbhaya, between 16 and 18, if a child commits a heinous crime like a rape or a murder, he will be treated like an adult. So, yeah. And for them, they will be sent to jail. But excluding heinous crime, children will be sent to correctional homes or care homes, juvenile board care homes, where they will be provided with various types of facilities, libraries, schools. So they will be taught singing, dancing, all these things, so that they understand their mistake and become a good human being for tomorrow's India. But before we start with the quiz, BYJU'S Exam Prep brings to you unlock your 3-day free trial access to all our courses. Question number 1. What is the primary legal framework for juvenile justice in India? The primary legal framework. And the correct answer is the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Act of 2015. Just told to you right now. Now, moving on to question number 2. Which international convention defines a child who is below the age of 18? And the correct answer is the United Nations Convention on Rights of Child, 1989. Very, very important. The United Nations Convention on Right of Child of the year 1989. Is that clear? Question number 3. Which fundamental right under the Indian Constitution guarantees free and compulsory education to all? 21A. And it was inserted by virtue of the 86th Constitutional Amendment. Right? So the correct answer is option C. Moving on. What does the right to health encompasses as per what we have read? And the correct answer is enjoyment of the highest attainable standards of health. Freedom from child labor, clean drinking water, right to shelter. No, right to health means attaining highest standard of health in India. Okay. Question number 5. According to Child Labor Protection and Regulation Act of 1986, what is the minimum age below which a child cannot be employed in specified occupation and processes? And the correct answer is 14 years. The correct answer is 14 years. Is that clear? Below 14 years, you cannot lose hazardous employment. Okay. Moving on. What is the primary purpose of Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, the POCSO Act? It is protecting, providing child of compulsory education, ensuring shelter of homeless children, protecting children from sexual abuse, protecting child labor. The correct answer is option C. So if you read the options, I think it becomes easy which of the following is the right one. So now these are very simple ones. Okay. Question number 7. In the context of juvenile justice, what does the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Act categorize crimes into? It categorizes crimes into petty offenses, serious offenses, and heinous offenses. So the correct answer is, these are the 3 genre, the category of crimes that a child can enter into: petty offenses, serious offenses, and heinous offenses. Okay, question number 8. Which act bans the employment of children below the age of 14 in specified occupation and processes and provides for strict enforcement of child labor laws in India? That is the Child Labor Prohibition Regulation Act of 1986. Is that clear? That is. Yes, that is it. And moving on to question number 9. This is the last question. What is the primary focus of the United Nations Convention on Right of Child? Protecting adults' right, protecting children's right, enforcement of labor laws, control over juvenile offender. No. Option B is the right answer. Option B. Is that clear? So this is how we solve these questions. Before I end, BYJU'S Exam Prep brings to you CLAT 2025 Comprehensive Course. 380 hours of live classes, 300 plus recorded videos, 55 mock tests, 10,000 topic-wise practice questions, 10,000 sectional practice tests, study material, doubt resolution, and the famous CLAT Ignite magazine. So guys, before I end, do subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, like our Facebook page, join our Telegram channel, and do not forget to download the BYJU'S Exam Prep app today. With this, we come to the end of today's session. I hope you enjoyed it. Do like the session, share it with your friends. Bye-bye, take care, have a great weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye. God bless you. All the best.